ladies and gentlemen, and Modest here again. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our next section of our Hobby Boss 135th German Panzerstück the Leguan. Just really quickly, again, the Tankograd book that I've been using as a reference. An excellent book to have if you're building this kit. We're going to go ahead and get started on what is referred to as the Verlegearm, the laying arm, okay? And I do want to go ahead and show you a few things that I'm going to be doing to hopefully improve on this kit. I've been waiting for this for a little while for it to come in the mail. I had to order it out of state. One of the major things was to make some improvements on the instruction sheet that Hobby Boss gave us, improvements on the model that is. One of which was to make this gear, it's right here, step 11, this F-16, one of my favorite airplanes, and this U-23 piece, that's going to be part of the gearing system to deploy that bridge to actually swing it out forward. That was going to be one of the major issues. The other issue, kind of sort of, was to make these roller bars. There are 4 sets of them. Make these roller bars somewhat pivot a bit. I think that's going to be kind of necessary for at least the front two. These two guys that are up here in the front of that laying arm. The other thing I want to point out as well, there's another modeler called Rick's Models. And Rick's Models did an excellent review, much more thorough than my review, and a lot brighter, of the same kit, the Hobby Boss kit. And he mentioned that the kit that we have been building is the prototype. So I wanted to improve on it, make some added details on it to make it more of the standard issue tank that we see in the German Army. And one of the things that they was mentioned, that Rick has mentioned on his video, were these baskets that are over here. These electrical baskets, these guys right here. And I noticed that when he was doing his review, he mentioned about these baskets. So besides the baskets that would be in the rear, as you can see on these illustrated pictures here, on the instructions and on the actual tank itself, there's another one, another set. One of them is going to be over there on the right hand side on the forward portion of that laying arm, in the sense that there's a smaller basket. It's a bit angled. There's not another one on the left. I've been looking at Rick's review, looking at my Tankograd book, and there is no basket on the left because that driver's hatch actually comes up and it would impede that hatch from coming up. So there isn't one there on the driver's hatch, but there is one on the commander's side, because the commander's side, I finally figured out that that hatch actually slides open, which I was always kind of curious about how that hatch worked. I thought it was just popped open and slid over, whatever the case. But no, it actually slides across the glacious hull, the front end of the part of the hull. But anyways, there is a basket there. And as I was reviewing his video again today, I noticed that there is another set of baskets for what is referred to as these ice cleats. These things are used for the tank to actually maneuver in the snow and such. So what are these ice cleats? Well, these ice cleats are these things, I'm going to show it to you in the instructions here, are these guys, these sets. This one's underneath the hull of the tank itself, and these two are on that front spade, that front support blade, the Spitz child, as I mentioned before. And those should not be on there. Well, I already glued everything down, I already put everything down, I already painted everything out. So I was looking into that. I'm not going to do it, but if you are going to do it, this one looks pretty easy to actually remove. You could just send that guy down. This guy, before you glue everything together, you could probably just sand those two down as well. And Better thing, maybe actually make a resin mold of at least this guy. So that way you can have some spares that you could throw in and make some small little parallel brackets where those guys could have been. On the back end of the heck arm are another set of baskets. I believe they're like on the outer portions of section C. I'll try to show that to you in a picture that I have in my Tankograd book. But basically, there are going to be 3 sets of baskets that I need to develop. And in fact, on one of the pages towards the back where everything's put together, it's going to be like in the back end where there's 2 other baskets are. And this other basket up forward where the commander's hatch slides over. So there's those baskets, there's those gears, and of course, as I mentioned to you about the laying arm itself, getting this thing articulated. So I'm going to be using, hopefully, the longer piston instead of the shorter piston. I'm just kind of worried about that U26 part. Since it's a plastic part, it's a hardened part. I'm going to try to see if I can get that piston to go inside this assembly without any interference, and maybe possibly remanufacture that one piece so it is a bit flexible for that laying arm to actually go down. But we'll worry about that when we get there. But let me just show you what the pieces I got. So the pieces that I purchased were mostly from eBay. One of them were these sets of gears. Now these gears that I have here, I already cut it open and kind of measured it, are from RC slot model parts. And the thing that I had great difficulty is try to find, this is from the F tree, the F sprue, a 6 tooth gear, a piston, excuse me, not a piston, a pinion gear. And that was much harder than I thought. Number one, because of the size. Number two, because it's a 6 tooth pinion gear. And how do I find something that small without manufacturers? Well, lo and behold, I thought about it. And I'm using, or I'm going to try to use this little guy. Two of the 3 that I have. This is a 6 pinion gear. Although it does have this extra extension here to actually mount it onto some sort of a bar, a rod, to actually make this thing spin. And I needed something that way because I needed something very durable for the model that we're building. So I got that one. Now it is, as you can see, it is pretty thick in the sense of length. Hopefully you can see that there. But it is a 6 tooth thingamajig. It is hardened plastic. It's a little bit harder than styrene. So that's good. The hole, the bore hole inside there, hopefully you'll be able to see that, is appropriate size for our brass rod. So that's not going to be a big deal either. Oh, that's the wrong rod. Get this one. There we go. So it will fit inside there. No sweat. But then I wanted something maybe a little bit more robust. So as an emergency, I got these guys. These are brass pinion gears, as you can see. But the hole's a bit big. The diameter hole's a bit big. But it is a 6 tooth. So I was kind of playing around with this guy a little bit and observing it. These 2 pinion gears, they do match up. They do work pretty well. They're both bigger, thicker in width and diameter than the piece that I have on that F tree. This guy right here is only 1 mil, only 1 millimeter. These guys here are a little bit bigger. This one I think is about almost like 2 millimeters, and this one is obviously going to be much, much larger, probably about almost 4 millimeters. So I had those two things going. So I'm going to try to be using one of these two. I like the brass. I think that would be so cool if I can actually get a brass metal piece. But if that doesn't work, I can actually sand this down and use that hardened plastic for the RC molds. And RC molds, they're built to withstand a lot of stress. As for the baskets, I got these on eBay as well. Now, obviously they're the wrong type of tank. This guy here are photo-etch screens, mesh, for a, I think it was for, what was it for? A Stuart, a Lee, I forget which one it was. But it's not the correct tank, but I was looking for something that's mesh-like, and this seems to be appropriate for what I need to do for those 3 baskets that I need to develop. They have the correct looking angles. I can manufacture, put together brass baskets. That's not going to be big. And I got 2 of them. Okay, I got 2 of these guys for the baskets and the instructions that go right below it. And they seem pretty appropriate for what I need to do. I'm not sure if that's the tank there. I just don't recognize that tank. YPR 760 could be a Chinese tank. I don't know. Point is that I'm going to be using these photo-etch mesh for that mesh that we have for the baskets here. It's not really the same holes, diameter, but you know what? For what I'm doing, not being able to 3D print, I think that's going to be pretty appropriate for me. So those are my enhancements so far. We'll worry about that possible leather piece for that one piston that goes in that needs to be a little bit flexible. That one piece, I just don't remember what it was right off the bat. Let me look it up. I got it right here. It's that U26 part. I might have to manufacture a canvas piece for that one. And I did look into that as well. I'll tell you more about it when that time comes up. So those are my enhancements, 3 of them, 2 of them actually, the pinion gears and that mesh. So we're going to go get started on that Verlegearm, the lane support arm, and the support structures. Now, as for the order of the model build itself, it is a 2-pager for this one section of that lane arm. But strangely, I'm going to start off with the electrical boxes, step 12 and 13. Then I'm going to go down to step 14. I'm going to stop, obviously, right here. Maybe going a little further and attach K3, K4, and this K15. And then go backwards and start on step 11. So I'm going to go backwards in this build because I do need to still prime and paint before the weather starts getting too cold and too humid for the rain that we're expecting here in SoCal. So I'm going to go and get started on these 2. Make the baskets for at least, I believe it's this guy, step 13, EE, as you can see up here, EE. That's going to be this guy right here, EE as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a basket there, going to manufacture one using that mesh. And then once I finish doing that, flip it over and kind of build that laying arm. Now I say kind of build because there's another part, another critical part besides those rollers, besides those pinions. It's this, what I found out now is referred to as the auxiliary arm. Auxiliary arms. There are 2 of them. There's one on either side of this laying arm here. They're showing F18, okay? But these 2 on the other side, they need to rotate upward together at the same time, same motion. So I'm going to leave maybe either the top or the bottom uncovered. So I'm not going to attach J25 nor J2 onto those sides of those lane arms just yet because I want to see how I'm going to get this F18 part to rotate up. I have some ideas, and we'll see how that goes. So let's get started on these two right here. We're going to start with 13 first, because I want to go ahead and start building out that one basket that should be out there in the front. So this could be K35, so getting our K tree. Go ahead and strip those parts off. Okay, so as I'm getting these pieces all lined up, I just did a quick dry fit. Just want to show you, I'll probably mark it that this is going to be the right-hand side on the bottom here. That piece should be on top of what looks like to be the quote-unquote turret portion. So I probably could mark it on there. I'm not sweating it too much. Use a Sharpie and attach it. But the interesting thing is, be very careful with that K6 and the other part K7. It looks like you have these little spurs right here that you want to cut off, but don't do that, because interestingly, those are the hinges for this door, and that's what that is. It's just a door, and it fits, boom, right snugly in there. So I'm not sure, maybe someone, maybe me, I don't know, probably not me, might want to come by and build out an interior. It looks pretty beefy. I'm not sure what they would put in there. I'll have to look at my Tankograd, but don't shear those guys off. Now there is a spur right here I'm going to remove, just that one part, okay? But don't cut any of these other guys, and don't cut that hinge, okay? Don't cut that hinge. And there are some other spurs that we're going to need to remove as well. But I'm going to locate those on here, and they look like they're little latches for the side there. Hopefully you're able to see those latches where I'm pointing to with my knife there. So if anything, that's the spur that you want to trim off. So very nice, very nice. Nice added detail, Hobby Boss. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut that one off. If I don't break off that handle. So really quickly, as I was getting ready to take a look at that basket, first of all, the basket is on page 22 of the Tankograd book. Here's that one box, and it's a storage box for tools. It looks like I could see. I think those are I think that's a saw. It looks like a saw to me. I've always wondered what that was. Anyways, but it looks like it's just a storage unit for some of the tools, which I could probably pull that off. It doesn't seem too hard to do. There are 3 separations, as you can see over there on the next one, the other one on the other side, on the left side. There's 1, 2, 3 separations. I'll show that to you in pictures. But that's all that is. It's just tool boxes that are there. And I can add some detail on that stuff. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it can be done. The only thing is, do I want to do it? But here's that basket right over here. Hopefully that's shine if the light's not too bright. I'll show it again to you in pictures again. And over here, this is the left one. No box, no basket. Okay, so that one is totally blank there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get that photo etch. And I already pulled one off. Now the measurement here of this photo etch that I need to cut is about, using millimeters, is about 8 millimeters. Okay, and it looks like it's just one screen. I only need literally one screen right here on that side. It's not on both sides. So totally doable. It looks like there's a screen down there at the bottom, which would make sense for possibly your snow cleats. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off. Measure that out. That's a different one. Let's see. I want one. I'm going to cut it off to about 1 mil. Even though it says 8 mil. So right about, yeah, for a second. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna go ahead, get my Sharpie, just measure out 1 mil. This is 3 to 4 mil, so that's gonna be 1 mil right about The length looks good. Excuse me, the height looks good. The angles look good. Let me go ahead and trim that down. And as I was looking at the photos, it doesn't look like there's a screen. There probably is. It doesn't look like there's a screen down there on the floor of this piece I'm going to make here. So that guy should go right there. Height looks good. Doesn't look like it's interfering with the box too much. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good right there. All right, so looking at that screen, here's the screen on my locking tweezers here. Here's the top side. So this guy's going to go right here. Now, it looks like I have, let me get my ruler. I haven't glued down the upper hole yet. I already mentioned to you, I believe, I'll mention it again. I still want to put some weight over here on the back end, on the lower portion of that hole. So I want to be able to access that inside where I'm going to put that extra weight, because I'm just afraid that once that bridge gets extended, this thing's going to tilt over, even with the stitch child being in place. But getting back to the cage, it looks like I have about close to about a millimeter, a centimeter, 10 millimeters clearance. But in the Tankograd book, that portion, that front end of that screen there, it looks like it's bent a little bit down. Let me use my toothpick. A little bit down right here. So I might just carefully remove a little bit of that screen and then bend what looks like a supporting brace for that screen, bend that a little bit down. That should be more than enough clearance for me. Anyway, so let me go ahead and trim this guy down. Let's see. We'll be able to see all this. Okay, that part's trimmed down. We'll go ahead and this piece right here. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and bend that part down. So I removed that part. So it's going to go ahead and bend this guy down. Okay, that looks about right. I'm going to add a little crazy glue on that, trim that part down even more so, and that should work for us. Just a quick measurement. Yeah, that's more than enough clearance. And there you go. That looks good. What I did, again, was I trimmed down a small part of that screen, that triangular portion, bent that part down, that one brace, that one edge. And then what I did was that since I'm dealing with that really thin mesh and that brace, I just pinched them together with my tweezers here, just like I'm showing you right now. Just got in between it, just pinched it together as a clamp, and that worked until that crazy glue was set. So that looks good. And as I place that onto that electrical box that's right there, again, I have more than enough clearance so I can actually go longitudinally across. It looks like it's about, it doesn't even go past that hatch, to be honest with you. I don't think it goes even beyond the 1.5 centimeter length. So the basket's pretty small. Looks like there's a strap right here in the middle, and that could be easily put together. So, part one, done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other baskets a little bit later, but at least that one is done. Okay, so here we go. Take a look. Looks pretty good. Let's see if we can use this. No, we can't use that. How about this? Looks pretty nice for the basket that I made for the Leguan. So, hey, not 3D printed, but pretty well made. Even has little spots in there for possible snow cleats. Thank God for crazy glue. So it looks good. No worries. So as we're letting that page of the build dry off, we're going to go ahead and discuss about what we're going to do for that cantilever arm, this guy right here. Okay. Again, a few things I want to point out before we get there. As far as the paint and prime, I'll probably remove the electrical boxes from here. I'll attach this guy with white glue. And the reason why we use white glue to start off is because I want to see how far that piston actually goes down into this part of the arm, that cantilever arm that I want to build out. Is that piston going to be impeded by the deck of K9, or will I have a lot of freedom? As well as attaching U26 on there as well, which I have not done yet. I'll probably touch that one as well with white glue as well. If I can, I like to use that U26 part on the top of this deck here. Hopefully I can, because I don't want to cut out certain pieces to make that thing look like a canvas, or for that matter, be too flimsy enough that it's not going to work at all. I hope it works with the plastic itself for me to actually be able to move that piston in as a cantilever arm is coming up and down, because that's the part that I want to motion, as well as that attachments of the two bridge parts. That's going to be up above here, which brings up another thing. The bridge itself, I'm probably going to have to build part of a bridge just to get an idea of how much wide that bridge is compared to those pinion gears that I mentioned to you before. Will those pinion gears be too big, be too wide? Do I need to shave them down? The brass, I don't know how I'm going to do that, because number one, the bore hole is pretty big. It's about, I think it's about 1 millimeter. The plastic ones, I think I can shave those guys down. We'll see, probably sand them down. So I don't think I'll be too worried about that. And I can attach them onto the rod, and I can attach it onto the plastic of the original kit. The brass ones, I love those. We'll see if I can maybe solder them on there. I have to look that up. I've never done soldering brass to brass, but I think I can. I've seen people do that with photo-etch. So we'll see how that goes. So again, we're going to let this thing dry. We're going to remove the electrical boxes. Okay, take those parts off. White glue this part, the center portion down. We're going to attach this. That's going to be attached on there. I can't glue that on there. Prime it, paint it, and then set that aside until I build up that other part of that cantilever arm. So that's the plan of what I'm going to be doing. On step 11, first thing I want to do, I wanted to come by and see what I can use to start off by making these pins roll. I think I have enough space for the longer piston, so I'm going to come by and just assume that's going to be good. It looks like I have enough space inside that section here to actually have that piston go through. This is still white glued on there, so it is should be pretty much set. I've had it rest there for about a day and a half now. we're going to go ahead and jump down into those roller bars, these 4 sets of bars. Now again, I'm only going to make these 2 movable, okay? In the real Leguan, they actually are able to independently move. There are 4 rollers on either side. 2 of them are independent of the other 2. And the whole thing is attached again on that one system. So how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to go ahead and purchase these flat pins. So for those pins I'm going to use, I went to my local art supply store, people making Christmas boxes, decor, various school supply items for making your science fair projects. This place is called Michael's, and I was able to get, various flat pins. So these various flat pins, the reason why I wanted to get these is because I needed something to actually make this piece right here rotate. So I can see if I can put it there at the end. So this thing right here does maneuver a bit as it scoops in and grabs that bridge. But I do want to point out a couple things. First, the attachment point on this and the pin that goes in here for that one of several, I think it's F33 parts, these F33 parts, they're a D type of pin. In a sense, it's shaped like a D like this guy. Okay, and that's where the other roller bar is going to be attached. So what I needed to do was I needed to clear that out. Basically, all I did was just get a knife and just burrow in there. And then I need to soften the edges of that D section right here, that pin that's right there. Let me show it to you. Use a paintbrush real quick. Right over here with that area that's right there. Okay, so I have to soften it up, make it a little bit more circular, and I allowed it to have free movement. On the actual piece, it's firmly on there. Okay, so step 1, it is a bit of a punch to actually push that thing through. So if you are making yours a static model, just be aware that at least this hole, and I'm sure on the other side as well, was pretty small, or the pin on here was pretty big. So you have to probably like trim out a little bit of that hole to actually attach it on there. But that's where we're going to attach our pin. We're going to drill a hole right in through here, very likely right through that pin. I like to keep that pin on there because it gives it a bit of good support as it rotates around. Now on the other side, it doesn't look all that great there, but we're going to give it a shot. I might have to make a groove, sorry about that, right along here, so that way when I bend that pin over, that pin will be bent over and actually be secured on there to allow freedom of movement of just this piece. This piece I have perpendicular with the rest of everything else there. So that's the battle plan, to make this thing, a bit maneuverable, okay? Just to be able to scoop up that bridge. Now, in reality, it's not going to be scooped up, but at least it'll give that assumption that it would be. So which pin did I choose? Well, like I said, I bought 3 of these. This one here that I have shown right now, this UV ResinCraft, it looks like these, what looks like these earring type pieces. And as I was looking through the box, it had these, pretty flathead looking pins on there. I'll try to show you one in just a moment. And that one looked pretty good, although the head seemed quite large. But there's a bunch of them. Okay, so that was my number one choice. Then I ran into these two sets, which is the one I was really looking for. This kind of like a flat straight pin. As you could probably see one of them over there on the top of that box there. Hopefully that glare doesn't bother you. Again, I'll show it to you. And then I saw these guys, like there's 800 of them. My gosh. Okay. Again, same flat head. But then as I pulled these guys out and looked at them a little bit more carefully, it looks like these guys were to be just a little too thin. This one, the steel looking colored one, seemed a little bit more thicker, a little bit more durable. And I said, okay, those look good. I might get these, even though I purchased the others. But then I got back to this one. I said, you know what? I'm going to give this one a shot. I'm going to give it a try. And it's brass compared to, I guess this is steel. I'm not too sure. Oh, nickel-plated steel. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And I had myself my small needle nose pliers, a bit of a cutter that I can use, even though it is stiff as a rock sometimes with the weather here in SoCal. But the drill bit, I'm going to be using a 63, a 0.0292 inch drill bit. And that seems to be a very good hole that I just drilled out with. On that side. It's a bit stiff, which is probably going to be ideal. It's small enough that it's not going to interfere too much with that pin, hopefully. Okay, hopefully not. And I think that's going to work for us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drill through that piece. Sorry about my head's going to get in the way here. Holding it steady, drilling through that D pin. Okay, looks good so far. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. Just a little bit off. I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to put in a little bit of a area for that pin because it's flanged just a little bit at the very top of that head, right up here. Okay, so it's flanged just a tiny bit up at that top. So I'm going to open up this hole on this side just a bit. Okay, insert that puppy in. Nicely. It's pretty flush. Hopefully you're able to see that. Okay, it looks pretty flush up in there. Okay, pin's coming out pretty nice. And then we're going to go ahead and bring it through here. Now I got to take a look to see how the thing's oriented. But it should be good. Now the only thing I need to do is just bring that pin over, bend it over. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and attach one of those roller bars onto the piece. Make sure I get this thing oriented correctly. I don't think it really matters because you just rotate this thing around. Okay, so real quick, and attach it there. Now I'm going to trim off just a little bit of the end. Don't need it that big. Okay. Gap looks good. Hole looks good. Okay, attach that on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold it as I bend this thing slightly. The good thing is that if that roller bar does break or something happens, you do have two other spares that are going to be over here in the back. So just FYI about that. Basically, bent that pin in the back. Okay. Once it's at a certain angle, then I open up the pliers and just go ahead and just pinch the two together. Now, there is a bit of a gap in there. Okay. So just FYI, you might want to get a piece of plastic to make sure that that thing doesn't get crushed as you're rebending it. And then just go ahead, close it together. Now, once you get to a certain spot, then I got some crazy glue, attached it right onto the mold ejector pin marking, and let it set. So it is there. This one does move, okay, pretty well. No big deal. I'm going to double check to make sure it doesn't move too much because I can still see the crazy glue has to set. But the other one, which I've already done, does move pretty well. And it is pretty much secured over there in the back. Okay, so that's it. Roller pins seem good. These two guys are going to be joined together like such. And when that lane arm is deployed, this guy will bend downward and scoop up that bridge. Okay, so the whole idea is to make these things lie flat as can be, to scoop up that bridge and actually bring this thing up and guide its way to the back end of the tank. More about that a little bit later. Okay, but for now, seems pretty successful. Bit pleased. I'm going to probably add a bit more glue onto this guy right here to make sure that that pin does not come loose or break off or pop out. Okay, so yahoo. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the auxiliary arms and see what we're going to do with these guys. These guys here are attached to the side here, basically right here. In the model, it tells you to glue them down, but I don't want to do that. I want these things to actually come up. As you can see, it is pretty loose. They do not connect to either side. As I kind of fooling around with this thing. So there's a bit of a gap for the other one as well on the other side. And two, they gotta move together. Okay, they're not independent of each other. They're both gotta come up simultaneously. So that's the next big hurdle: is what do I do to connect those? I have some ideas, but we'll see what we could do. All right, so after a pretty successful attachment of these roller bars that we have here in the right, the left, as you can see here, that's exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm pretty pleased with that. The only thing I'm going to add later, not right now, are the rollers themselves. They're like 16 sets, as you can see here on steps 11. There's 16 sets of these rollers, 4 on each one of those bars that I attach. And there's going to be another set of 4 over here on the back end. So that's done. The next thing we're going to do is work on that auxiliary arm, part F18, which I've already cut out. These things were broken off as I was reviewing the kit. Fortunately, I was able to tape them on, and that's what you should do. If you have broken parts that came off the tree, just re-tape it. That's what I did. It's been like this for almost a year, attached onto this baggie. So I kept this baggie with that tape on there and with these two guys attached on there. So they stayed safe. They weren't loose. They weren't banging around anything. But here's the thing. How do I articulate this part? Okay, so the auxiliary arm is going to come up. It's kind of like in a stowed position right now, and it tells you to glue it down in the instructions. But I want to have this thing come up and be in position here. Okay, and have the other arm on the other side do the same thing. And it's supposed to be in that position as the first bridge is being sent out. Okay, the second bridge on top, okay, is actually raised with this auxiliary arm. And it's actually lifted up while being held back by the heck arm, by that rear support arm. And as that forward bridge is being placed out, it comes out to a certain distance, and then this thing is dropped, not literally dropped, but placed down and snaps into the back ends, the middle sections of both bridges. And they snap into position. Once that occurs, the whole bloody bridge gets rolled out there. And then it's laid down and then pulled back. The tank pulls back and there's your bridge. So how do I get this thing attached? Well, first of all, I do have some tubes, hollow tubes, from all the modeling I've been doing. But those guys are too big. So I said, okay, how about, drinking straws? So it's regular drinking straws. And the reason being is because I want to basically, it's not glued down yet. I basically want to attach this pin right here, to the other side. So how do I do that? Well, I was looking, and straws didn't work. So I had to find a new way. So I'm going to show you what I did. I'll be right back. All right, so what did I do? I went to get drinking straws in my kitchen. We had several straws, which I really don't like, but those guys were still too big. The hole there is much too wide to actually fit in there. So I was scrounging around, and sure enough, my daughter had these small little straws. I guess those are for your pouches, for your punch drinks, your, I don't know what you call them, Capri Suns. So I thinking, okay, let's try that one. And unfortunately, that's still too loose. I mean, I could glue it on there. It does fit, okay? But I was still unsatisfactory with that. So lo and behold, I found another one, an actual straw from those Capri Suns. And as I was putting that in there, oh, look at that. It's a bit snug, which is cool. And I said, you know what? I think that's gonna work. Okay. And the pin's big enough. It's not like the pins that we dealt with on that heck arm that actually snapped off. I actually was able to twist that on there. No sweat. And it actually fitted on there. So I was quite pleased. So here's the thing. We're going to measure this out. Oh, got the auxiliary arm on there. Let go, buddy. Going to measure this out. Measure the distance across. Get on there. And as I'm measuring it across in millimeters, it's about close to about 15 millimeters, maybe about 16. So I'm going to go ahead and chop off a bit of this straw and see if that works. Okay, so we'll see. Stand by. Okay, so I got my scissors here. These are scissors that I use for cutting metal, toughened plastic. That's such. I have another set of scissors for my rigging. So I looked at it. It looks like about 16 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and chop it off right here. Hopefully this thing comes up nice and neat. Barely missed it. Okay, that's about right. Reinforce that in. Oops, attach it first. Okay, I'm going to come by and put in its little hole here. There's that piece. Okay, kind of press down on it. And I wanted to get it flush. I want to get this thing right up against it because I don't want this thing to be moving around. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to try it on the other side. Oops, it's a little long. It should be a little bit long. It's not fitting in there too well. Okay, snip that off just a hair. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, so let's put that guy on there. And squeeze it in there. Okay, looks fine. All right, let's give it a quick adjustment. I'm gonna raise it, okay, and this is what it should look like, kind of like that. Okay, there's a little bit of fine tuning, a little tweaking here and there, but yeah, look at that. Nice, rigid, holds its place. Once I glue this on, I don't think I'm even going to glue it. I think that's fine just the way it is. Computer's going off. Going crazy, computer. And I'll just eyeball it to make sure everything's good. All right. So Yahoo. We got another part of that Verlegearm done. I'm pretty sure that piston's going to work. We got the roller bars working. We got the auxiliary arm working. So the last thing we're going to do, throw this little bit away, is to attach then, I'm going to attach that bottom portion to give me some idea of where this thing's going to be. Now here's where the piston's going to be held into place. Okay, piston's going to be in there. Okay, and this thing's going to be basically going up and down in this sort of fashion. Okay, that's the plan. That's the idea. I'm just hoping that this, I like to keep this. I don't want to tear it apart. Don't want to rip it out. Don't want to reinvent the wheel. Okay, but that's how this thing is going to be working. And once that Verlegearm is actually deployed, these roller bars that we have at the ends are almost basically touching the ground. As you can see, it does bend parallel to the ground. And that's what you want, okay? And then you can just manually just put it back. I think on the real machine, there's like a set of springs that springs loads. Not even gonna deal with that. That comes into the 1/16th model that I saw in Germany. I might have to just loosen that up a little bit, make it a little bit shorter, so that way it does fit nicely on there. I still see a little bit of a gap, a little bit of play in there. But there you go. That looks good. So another step accomplished. Yahoo. So one last thing I wanted to mention before we close for today. So I do want to go ahead and build part of the bridge, maybe just a frame in itself. I'm not going to build the whole thing. I want to combine test fit to see how these things are going to come together. What needs to be adjusted as far as the rollers, as far as the gears on F-16s, okay, those auxiliary parts. Because to be honest with you, that's going to be the most important part of this entire build. The Stutzgard was important. The heck arm was important. The Verlegearm is important. But I surely like to see if I can actually get that bridge being moved across. So we're going to use those gears that I mentioned to you before, previously in this build. We're going to do that another time and actually see if that bridge, once it's laid on there, if it can actually be rolled within reason. Okay, within reason. Can it be rolled out there manually, of course. Not going to motorize it. For those of you who think I'm going to motorize it, I'm going to dash your spirits on that. But it'd be cool to see if I can actually get that bridge to be maneuvered that way. Hopefully I could get those pinion gears. Hopefully I don't have to modify them. I just like to just slap them on there, attach them, slap them on there, put the thing together, and then prime and paint. So that's going to be the next major thing. So until then, see you around.